never thought I would see it today. I'd be sitting looking at their bloody mobile phone. These pricks.
We're all thinking the same.
Why is that? Where's the other two?
Off.
Huh?
Turn that YouTube off for under fear of your connection.
I was watching Catherine there.
I'm sure you were.
I was just about to ask you how lockdown's treating you, Marty, but can you hear us?
Huh?
Can you hear us? Yeah. Well, how's lockdown treating everyone? Some lovely haircuts going on.
Homemade haircuts there.
I think a couple of us, it's easy for a couple of us here.
As well.
I haven't got the blending in right there. We'll have to do all 80 step.
You'll be starting a new trend.
I think not.
How are you getting on, John, with the wee one in lockdown? I'm sure it's different.
Guys, it's been good. I suppose that's one of the good things about it. It's given us a wee chance to spend a bit of time with him, like, you know, where you normally wouldn't have had that. So it's been good in that sense. He's doing well. Like, you know, he's not a million miles off where he should be, and he's getting stronger by the weeks. Like, you know, keeping us on our toes. That's for sure. But it's tough.
You'll get too used to you all being in the house.
There's maybe a wee chance he's getting spoiled a wee bit. Like, there's no doubt about that. But it's been good. It's been brilliant in that sense. But I suppose tough in other ways. Like, you know, not being able to get out and about and do normal things. But hopefully now we're sort of through the worst of it. Things are starting to move a wee bit.
Yeah. How are you feeling with this, with the lockdown, with very little GAA going on? Are you missing it or happy enough?
Everybody sort of, we're all frustrated to get I think everybody sort of involved with the game. We're all set our plans out at the start of the year, what you were involved with, or what team you were taking, or who you were helping, and then plans just came to a sudden halt. Sort of frustrating, and everybody then to be told about, you know, you're locked up for a bit while and not being able to get out. I think that's the most thing, been left in the house, not being able to get out around the grounds and go to matches and stuff. It's said about haircuts, it's pulling your hair out job, you know. It's not good. Like,
You don't have to worry, Uncle Vincent's keeping everything in tip-top shape out the road.
Eager to get back and get going here.
I'm already missing the pints on Sunday there.
For the look, you're not missing too many pints and brave bit of weight.
That's what retirement does.
You start doing takeaway pints. Takeaway pints are all the business, are they not?
They're the job, boy. You've got yourself walking every highway and every street in Portaferry in the country. Hey, never was fitter.
Have yourself a new bike.
Starting to run out of route.
What do you say?
You got yourself a new bike as well.
We're going great guns here, boy. Picnics and sorts of things. Don't miss the Paul Mercer.
With this new return to play with the GAA, do you think there'll be much changes, or how do you think it's going to affect the rest of the year?
I think it's going to be difficult to manage. It's hard to know what to expect when you see like the golf and football being played on TV with no supporters and stuff like that. It's hard to know what to expect from the. You know, I don't know. There's no guidelines on whether you're allowed to go watch a bloody match or what the situation is. Or are we going to mark out pitches for social distancing and stuff like that? I have no idea what to expect. I suppose we haven't got all the information yet, which is the frightening part.
Do you think it'll actually go ahead, or do you think things will stop?
No, I think things are going to ramp up fairly quickly. You know, all the signs and signals are that society's getting ready to go back a lot sooner than they originally expected, and I think the GAA is fundamental part of that for rural communities like ours. And I think it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fairly quickly.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Just going to start with, especially with the GAA memories campaign that we kind of did in the player profile. If you when you're speaking to most of the hurlers, there's two matches always come up as most memorable. Marty, we'll come to you first with the the '89 final, Ulster final against Lockheed in the Park. Why was it so special, or why was it so memorable?
Probably, Maria, to be honest, it's probably the crowd and the atmosphere around the place at the time, and they're probably the top two teams in Ulster at the time, you know, and probably the atmosphere, massive crowd. Talking about 5,000 in the park that day, you know, I remember it very, very well. I remember as a young fellow going down to the football pitch that morning for a puck around the morning of the match, and you see the Lockheed crowd coming down into the town, and you know, it was really ramping up all the time. And we got to the park. I remember walking out the park with gear, there was horns honking, and it was a fantastic day. Like, but you know, we lost the match ultimately. So that's memorable too. But to be fair, it was a good Port of Ferry side, a good Lockheed side. It was a great Lockheed side. That's why we lost. Ultimately, they had the bulk of the '89 team that played in the All-Ireland final with Antrim. They know that Niall Patterson goals. Dominic McKinley was centre back. They had Dominic McMullen who played midfield for Antrim at midfield. Aidan McCarry at centre forward. Ultimately, Varys at full forward. So it was a big ask. But I think what probably cost us on the day was, maybe people won't think too much about it. We were short Brent Knorr. He was suspended from an old stupid sent off in the first round of the championship against Leitrim. Jesse decided to go and play football for Irish Rangers for a season. He was midfield and it would have released Noel into the forward line. And I think Cine went travelling to America maybe. So that was 3 massive players lost. And our subs was minor, really. You know, with Kevin McManus was a minor corner forward, and with Tommy James and Eamon and Jared McGrattan as subs, you know, they were all minor. We're a bit strapped that way, but it probably cost us in the end, them 3 fellas away. Like. But it was a fantastic occasion. It was a great day, and everybody talks about it, you know, and it was 2 good teams. And to be fair, we were winning at half time that day. We were a point or 2 up at half time, and it was always going to be close. But I remember as well, Anthony McGeehan was playing midfield, and he got a wild clatter in the head in the first half. And he came in at half time, and he collapsed him down the middle of the change room floor. But nowadays, off to hospital, and it'll be 6 weeks out with, what do you call that thing? That
concussion.
But they got him patched up, they got him onto the pitch again, and I don't think Anthony remembered too much in the second half. And they got a goal in the second half, swung it in their favour, and he missed I think Christopher would be the first to say he missed a great chance to Hunter, you know, to put us in front with 5 minutes to go. But it was a good game, and ultimately there's no one that got away. But that was probably my memories of it. But it was the crowd probably in the park. And I think to be fair, I think that was the last Ulster club final played in a club ground because of the crowd. I think it had to switch to the grounds where there's turnstiles and all that sort of thing, because they were coming over hedges and ditches and nobody. Then it just was rampant, you know. So that's sort of my memories of it. So.
Why?
I was going to ask you, Marty, were the club finals always played at club venues up until then?
Yeah, they were always played up until that. I think, John, they were always played, you know, till that. I think that was the last one. Now we played Lochgiel. Well, I don't know, maybe you were playing, or maybe some of you guys were playing. We played Dunloy, in Lochgiel after that, but it was.
Yeah. That was because of the weather, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we'd agreed to go to Dunloy that day, but that was it, really.
What was the reason it was in the park, Marty? Why was it in the park? What was the reason it was in?
It was Antrim 1 year.
All right.
You know, so you won the championship, and you were lucky to get the draw at home. It was in. Remember Ulster finals in Lochgiel, and remember going up to one and played Cushendall on the wee pitch across the road. You know the wee pitch across the road? Pitch. I remember Port of Ferry getting a hiding up there one day. That's 81, I think.
In an Ulster final?
Ulster final, we got an
on that pitch.
And that wee school pitch, yep. You know, a good goalkeeper was hitting the ball out today. They would put the ball onto the beach, never mind over the bar up there these days. I'm a good goalkeeper now.
Don't be calling me cock out tonight now.
On the blood back, would they? That was my memory of '89. That was my memory of '89. It was a brilliant occasion, and it was great for the town. And I remember Bob McGeehan and took hold of the thing that they got ultimately McVitie from Armoy. Obviously, you know, he was a massive player. He was one of the top forwards in Ireland at the time, and they signed him for a year from Armoy, and he scored 9 or 10 points on the day. And but I remember Bob McGeehan. I think he was chairman of the club at the time, playing full back. He just come back into the club, and he never played full back in his life, and he took on the role, but hadn't got a full back after Bessie went to England. and he was absolutely brilliant for a couple of years. But he decked the town out, and he made sure that Portaferry had made a massive occasion of this. I think that all grew into the crowds, and he decked the town out and made sure the town was decked out in blue and gold, and the whole build up to it was to try and get us over the line ultimately, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's my memories.
So that leads on then to the Ulster final win in 2014. Do you want to talk about it, Carl? Who did you play in the club championship, down championship that year? Final.
Yeah. It's a great year from start to finish. I suppose Sean came in that year after taking the minors for a few years and brought them players along with him. Probably half a dozen good wee players that came straight onto the team. I think we played Ballygallagher. I think they played at Ballygallagher team and beat them very well in the club semi-final, and then went on to beat Ballycrown. It was a great occasion in the park as well. I think there was a bereavement in the town that time. They had to thank the toss for it that year, did we?
Yeah.
Toss for the final that year, and we were lucky enough to come out on top, and we got to play it in the park. So it was great to win the championship in the park for a start, and then moving on to the Ulster. I think we played just below, I think, in Clonus. It was good to get run out in Clonus as well. And then leading on to Cushendall match, which is a great occasion. I mean, going to Slaughtneil and Cushendall and Lockgill, the semi-final, I think it was. I think it went to replay, and then they had to play them in Lockgill. I think Slaughtneil slipped up that year. I think they were in the football as well, and they ran out of legs. And just remember Shane McNaughton coming and scoring a couple of late points to get Cushendall behind. But I knew leaving Lockgill that day that we were in with a massive chance. That day, just I mean, meeting Gainers on the Monday morning after, and he said to me, "How do you think this will go?" And I looked at him and I said, "We're going to win it. We're going to do it." And I think he just looked at me, with a surprise, because we were probably underdogs, But anyway, we got in, and we got going in the final, and we just steamrolled Cushendall, and we never looked back. We just kept going and going, and I think every man to the end, dug into the end, and subs and work.
Was there any point in the game, Kieran, where you thought, yes, we can do this, or God, they're back here, or did you feel very confident that he's got the league?
Push right there. Push right.
I can't hear you. The dog's going daft. I'll be back in a second.
I think just on that, I think Kieran's probably he's a good point there. He was lucky to stay in the field that day, so maybe that helped us as well, And in the first half, there was a bit of an incident. So,
they're checking the cash there.
He was giving you 30 seconds there. Was there any point in the game, Kieran, where you thought, God, Cushendall are going to come back here, or were you pretty confident from the start? After the first point went over, that God, we have a chance. We're.
I didn't. No, I thought we were in control of the game for the majority of the game. To be honest, we got a really good start, and we built on that momentum from that point forward, and we kept pushing forward. We didn't really take our foot off the gas, but at one point with about under 10 minutes to go, I was kind of treading water, and I thought we had maybe 12 men inside our 21 trying to defend the goal again, and I kind of felt under pressure at that stage. But I think for the majority of the game, we were the better side, and we were comfortable for the most of it, and we were well worthy of the win, that's for sure.
Yeah, from the supporters' point of view, it was kind of like Cushendall, they're bound to step up another gear here, but it just didn't seem to come.
No, I agree. I mean, I think we got things right on the day, and Cushendall had no answer for it. They couldn't match our intensity and our work rate and their aggression, and they had no answer for us.
Yeah.
I don't think some people think that it was a bit of a surprise, but I think the lads remember. I think we beat Cushendall twice that year already, didn't we? We beat them in the league, and then we beat them in a friendly.
Beat them in a challenge match that Sunday morning in Cushendall. And that's the day that gave me the confidence going into that game more so than anything. That was a horrendous day, and we beat them off the park that day. And think I don't want to say Cushendall underestimated us in any capacity, but you know, we've people. I have heard people have said this. So to me in the past that it was a fluke that result, and I don't believe it was for second. Well, with a better team from start to finish.
Yeah. John, as captain, what was it like lifting the Four Seasons for the first time?
Obviously, it was brilliant. It was a very proud moment, you know. But it's not something that I really thought about. I think the main thinking was, you know, getting over the line and winning it. I suppose it doesn't really matter. It's nice to be able to look back and say, "Well, you're the first person to do it." But I think the main point was getting over the line as a team and winning it. You know, but I think the boys were talking there about. I think we were growing as the year went on, and you know, having played in a few finals before, I think it was really the first time that you were really confident going into it. I personally felt really confident going into a final. I think we were well prepared. You know, a lot of that was down to Sean and the management team. Like, we were really prepared going in. We had a belief that we were going to win it. Cushendall maybe did underestimate us, and we brought an intensity to it that we kept going throughout the whole game. You know, and ultimately they couldn't live with it. There was a couple of moments there you mentioned there. Carl mentioned Coogee borderline red. I actually think that was a big moment in the game because, you know, I remember it happening. There's a wee bit of a scuffle and there were 2 or 3 of our players steamed in and it rattled them a wee bit. And we're thinking for this today, like we've got them, you know. And then coming off at half time, I think there was a wee bit of a scuffle. And Sean then held us behind. I remember going down into the tunnel, and you can hear the crowd, and I think we were booed down the tunnel that day, you know. And I remember thinking again, we've got them rattled here, and you know, it's one of those moments that gives you goosebumps, you know, because we've got them rattled. But it was only half time, and I think we had to go in, settle down, and it was important. Then we got off to a good start in the second half, and I think we came out and maybe scored 2 or 3 points. I remember Owen Sands knocked a couple over from sidelines and stuff like that. So we built on that at the start of the second half, you know.
Yeah. Sean, as the manager, you're hearing your players, they were very confident going into the game, but how many sleepless nights did you have that week?
Every manager, the day you don't sleep from the day you take it to the day you finish taking it. But, you know, for us, it was probably frustrating the run up into, you know, the county final as well, because we sustained some injury. We couldn't really get everybody onto the pitch at one time. If we were getting 2 boys back, we were losing 3 next week. And things really didn't come out to us until maybe 4 or 5 weeks out of the championship coming into the down. We took on a mighty Timber from our neighbours out the road in the league match, the last one before we met them again in the semi-final. So a lot of questions we needed to ask, but we always knew that, you know, the team was there. We just get them all on the pitch at one time. So we ended up hitting the road. I mean, we went and the guy said there, we went up and we played Kevin Lynch's. We went up and played Ballinascreen, and then we ended up playing match with one soaking Sunday morning. And that's when things changed because, you know, you talk about moments when you think your season changes, and Kieran already alluded on it. That's when it started to click. You know, we made a few positional changes away from the scenes so nobody could see us. And we marked Cushendall that day, you know, man for man on the pitch. We played 3 20-minute sections and, you know, we were on top. And the 3 of them, we outscored them. So I think that gave us a wee bit of a boost going into the final as well, because fresh in the back of our memory, we're saying, well, here, we only met these boys 5 weeks ago. You know, we beat them down in Cushendall, albeit a challenge match, getting ready for the championship, but it was there. So, yeah, as a manager, it's rewarding because you do sit down night after night. You know, the guys come and train Tuesday, Thursday, play a match on a Sunday. For us, anybody that takes a team, you know yourself, you're working Monday, Wednesday, Friday in between, preparing, getting ready, and making sure everyone's working all right. So it's good to see that, you know, the changes and the input that you had came out on the pitch, and the boys were, you know, we were well organised, we were well set up. I mean, for the first time, sort of had a wee bit of a, you know, direction where we were going, and we were lucky we got a wee bit of Cushendall before the final, because we were able to see what they set up. So we were able to set up and on mark and match out our players and match them. So yeah, it's as a manager, it's definitely hard to beat. Seeing it coming off on the pitch, and that goes down to all the staff. That goes down to our trainers, that goes down to our backroom team, and then especially to the players for sticking and carrying it out.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel the new championship setup has come in now the past couple of years? The round robin, do you think that helps, or do you prefer straight knockout? Or I suppose we'll come to you, Marty. You're used to just the straight knockout. Do you prefer this new setup?
I don't really know, to be honest, Maria, but I think the best team always comes to the top, to be honest. I think you get a second. I think the best team always comes to the top, the best prepared team. But just getting back to the 14 final there, as a spectator, something outside looking in it, greatest day in the club's history, lads. You might be a bit modest about it there, but for me, it was the greatest day in the club's history. It gives me goosebumps yet. I'm sorry it's not on YouTube to get watching every weekend, to be honest. Think about in games, and we've all been in management, we've talked and set teams up, and we've done. But for me, when the players are right, they drive it, and I think that day the leaders in the team drove the whole thing. There was hits went in at the right time. I think a big plus in the whole thing was the referee was fantastic that day. He let us walk into them, and they were arrogant, and Antrim teams are arrogant. They always are arrogant. And whenever we walked into them, they didn't have the answer. There was a couple of hits went in, and there was frees getting away. It was worth it, in my opinion. And we're getting to this new style of hurling, all this short passing and all the fancy stuff, But for me, championship games are won and people putting tactics in and people being up for it and people wanting it more than tactics. That's only my take. On that day, Portaferry wanted it. They were tactically right. They walked into them and they took the game to them, and the referee lent it to that, and the supporters got behind it. And I have to be honest, 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, 10 points up, I still didn't believe we were going to win the damn bloody thing. We're shitting ourselves back. I'm not going to tell you that.
I was the same, Marty. I think the umpire had a sore head listening to me every couple of minutes. Longs left, longs left, longs left.
I'll let you in, I'll let you in, I'll let you in, I'll let you in. It was ridiculous, but it was a great occasion in the club's history, lads. And, it was something that, to be honest with you, it was a monkey off our back. No matter where you went, it was through up to you during the years where you haven't got an Ulster club title. Many championships have you, but you haven't got an Ulster club title. And there's people say to you in bars and people around, and our neighbours were always good at it. But the egg rubbing the face that day, and it really put the monkey gone. Finished. So it's great on it, and it's
one of the big things for me, and again, it's credit to Sean and the management team. And I often think about it. Like, if you think about Portaferry over the last 20 years, taking Dool, Paul Braniff out of the forward line was, what a move that was. What a brave move that was. And if you think about the last 15, 20 years, he was probably responsible for 70% of our scores.
He still got joint.
It gave us that freedom, and it gave us that leadership in the middle of the field. That free bit, and he could play going forward and defensively as well. It was an absolute masterstroke.
Mm-hmm.
We learned in the Antrim League, in the second half of the Antrim League, we were relying on Paul a lot to get us the scores, and we're lumping them up in front, but we were also starving the fort, because we were short a few players and we couldn't get the full team out. And I think the biggest thing was that when we did meet the Ballygallic team in the Antrim League before we were meeting them in the championship, it was plain and obvious to see the way they set their stall out. We put Doe on the edge of the square and men on him at all times. So we sat down and thought to ourselves, well, here, if you pull out in the middle of the park, they're not going to sacrifice two men standing in there. Or, let's give them the freedom and change things about a bit. And touch wood, lucky enough, it paid dividends. Connor